Hey everybody, how you doing? I just want to check in today and kind of post the next step. I guess I wouldn't call it an assignment because you're not going to turn it in as you couldn't turn in the one from yesterday or the day before. So it's just the next step and where things to go. So yesterday, what the activity was, if you got to it, and that's why I gave a little extra time today because I know there's other class assignments and this is something that you can progress. And if you don't get to it today, it's fine. So when you look at the classwork and the classroom stream, yesterday's activity was 14 by 16 room, and that was basically going in, opening a new project, setting the wall thickness, clicking and dragging a rectangle, and setting your dimensions to 16 feet by 14 feet. And that was it. So really all I wanted you to do is to, one, either create your own account and set that up, or right here, if you wanted to use the school account, which has an option and a project for everybody, you could log in and use this password. And what that does, that brings you to once you get to the floor planner website and you log on using the school setup with my email and my account, when you go into the projects and see all projects, every student in period 7, 8, and 9 will have an account set up. All right, so what I'm going to do is continue on to where I left off yesterday, which was a 14 by 16 room. All right, and that's sort of where we left off. And again, we went into draw room, we set our walls to 4 inches, and then we clicked and dragged. Now these are the dimensions that we could change. So today what I'm going to do is add a little more. So we have a bedroom, and I'm going to add some space for, let's say, a living room. And all this is not the final house that you're doing. This is just to show you how to set things up. This is just the same way we would progress if we were in school, if we were in class. This is how I teach this. And then we can upload the floor plan examples I had you get off of houseplans.com. We'll progress from there. So using the floor plan assignment, the revised T7 design, if I look at, let's say, a living room, it's a much larger room than a bedroom, 16 by 20, which is fairly large, and then 22 by 28, which is huge. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the same thing as yesterday. This is kind of where I'd like you to zoom in a little bit. I want to make sure that walls or additional rooms are connected so there's not double walls or openings or things like that. So I'm going to click on draw room just like I did yesterday. It's going to, again, confirm that the wall thickness is 4 inches. And if I zoom in here, you'll see these blue dash guidelines. And that's telling me that I'm exactly where I need to be connected to the existing room. So I'm going to click, and then I'm just going to drag a larger rectangle because I know the living room is going to be a little bit larger. I'm not really worried about the numbers that are right here yet. I just know I need it to be larger. And as soon as I click and finish it, if it fills in with a color, that means it's completely enclosed and connected properly to the other room, which is what you want. So make sure that you're on this filter right here, because sometimes some people click on this filter and you're like, well, why isn't it filling in with the same color that Mr. Strobel has? So make sure you're on this filter right here. Now, the room itself, just by clicking and dragging a random rectangle, is 20 feet, 7 1/8 inch and by 13 feet. So I'm going to make this a little bit larger. And again, just like yesterday, I could click on this dimension. I'm just going to get rid of the inches here, 11 3/4 inches. I don't need that. And I'm going to bring this up to, I don't know, let's say 20 feet. And again, you have to have that little symbol next to it. And so what I'm going to do is push this wall up by clicking on this arrow after I've changed it to 20 feet, and you'll see how it goes up. And then this wall, I'll keep it simple. I'll do the same thing. I'll just keep this 20 feet. So once you've clicked and dragged, and again, I'm going to kick this wall out by doing that. Okay. And that's fine if that happens. So trying to keep it simple, 20 by 20. Actually, let me change that. And like that little notch there. Bring that back in. So that way this wall stays consistent. Okay, So that's it. So I've added another room, and it was connected to the original bedroom. And if I click on the surface, just like yesterday, it tells me how big it is in square feet. And it already designated living room to it, which is fine. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is what they call egress, and that means a way to get in or out of a room, and that is known as doors and windows. So if I navigate over here to the left side and go to place doors, a lot of you will probably have just a two-dimensional view, and that's fine. If you'd like to actually see what the door looks like, you could slide this over to 3D. And a lot of times the first one is fine. It just says standard door. All right. And the reason why I like this one is because it shows which way it swings and it gives you some options. And this is kind of important when you're planning a floor. How the doors open, whether they're pocket doors, if they open in, out, if they're a left-hand or right-hand door. So all I need to do is to get this in place. If I want access from the bedroom into the living room, I'm going to click on this first one, standard door, and I'm going to drag it right over here. Okay. Now, by looking at this, if I were in the living room and I wanted to get into the bedroom, I would have to pull the door open, and then the door would be resting in the middle of the room, which is kind of wasting space. So what I'm going to do first is change how it works. If I were going from the living room into the bedroom, I'd want the door to open in and rest against this portion of the wall, so it's not out into the living room swinging open. It just in and rest against the wall. So if I click on the door, you'll see that it opens up some options. It changes the way it swings, and it changes whether it goes in or out of the room, and this is what I want. Okay. Now the last step, once I've changed that, doors inside of a house are anywhere from 28 to 30 to 32, and in some cases all the way up to 36. So if I click on this door, on the left side here, it's going to tell me the width. This is an extremely large door, so I'm going to bring this down to, I don't know, I think 30 inches is fine. For for a typical interior door in your house, 30 inches is fine. So I could either highlight this, and I could delete these and just go right to 30. And that's going to change the size, and you can see how it adjusts. Now, what I can do with this later on, I can actually change where that goes. And instead of going through all those steps again, what I could do later on is I could actually duplicate that and put on another wall if I needed that same size door, which is very common. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go up here and do a quick save. And the same goes for a window. Now, that's one of the things that we're going to look at later on when you design your house, is that you have to have proper egress. That means a way in and way out. And a door is not the only way to get in or out, especially in case of a fire. If there is some way where this was blocked, you'd have to be able to get out of a window. So the same thing with doors. If I place windows, if you click on 3D, it's going to give you a lot of options of different styles. And that's up to you. And you want to be careful that once you pick one, all houses, most of them, have consistent types of windows. And in some cases, they might have a different one if it's smaller or if it's like a bay window or something. But typically, all the windows are the same that they choose. So I'm going to pick something like this, double hung window. And I'm just going to drag this into the wall. And right now, I'm not concerned about where it is. I could move that later depending on furniture. Now, in something like a living room, it typically has a lot of light. So let's say if you closed out of this and you're like, ooh, I forgot which window I used. Don't worry about that. You could click on this window, you could duplicate it, and you could move them anywhere you want. So I'm just going to make sure that this living room has a lot of light. So I'm going to go here, and I'll duplicate that. Put that up here. And I'm going to hold off on this because later on what I might do is place a French door like if I had a porch outside. But for right now, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so the goal today, okay, was to, again, get onto Floor Planner. 2, add another room. And we said that we wanted that room to be 20 by 20. We wanted you to pick a standard door, place it in, have the proper in-swing and the proper size, which was 30 inches. I didn't give a specific window for you to pick. I just asked you to pick one and be consistent. And then I asked you to duplicate it and move it into the different rooms. And that's the goal for today, is to add a room. Now, tomorrow what we're going to try to do is show you how to add a hallway, an archway, and then we're going to start painting walls and things like that. So this is still at the teaching you how to use the program phase. And we're not getting into our own floors yet. Some of you may have opened up a different project and you're probably going for it on your own. That's great. So that's it for today. I'll post another video tomorrow. Have fun.